Hello, I am here to present to you some information about a drug that's affecting our community. That is amphetamines, and more specifically methamphetamines. Some of the issues with meth here in Utah is that deaths from meth have doubled in the last 5 years. And according to the Utah Department of Health, drug overdoses rose from 31 in 2010 to 217 in 2018. Another issue that we are facing is that meth is becoming more readily available. It is coming through drug routes, through California, from Mexico, also through Arizona, and those go straight through Utah. And local production of this drug has also increased. Here's a little video about a drug bust recently in Utah.
One of the things that I enjoy doing is looking for people that are transporting large quantities of narcotics. So we're going to stop this vehicle for a speeding and a signal violation. How you guys doing today? That's your license, please?
I don't have my license. I got my ID.
Okay, no driver's license. Do you, is this your vehicle?
Yeah,
Did you rent it?
no, for rented.
So why did you have your friend rent the vehicle?
Because we don't have a license.
Did you get the suspended licenses? Then you have to turn the car off. Then maybe step out of the vehicle, all right? Do you have any weapons on you? Can I see your waistband? Can I turn around? Did you have my pat you down? Just put your hands behind your back. So make sure you don't have any weapons in your pockets, okay?
Actually, it's just come out here. No ways here. Anything illegal in this part of it?
Any illegal drugs? Any marijuana? Any cocaine? Any heroin? Methamphetamine? Large amounts of money? No. Any guns? Burglary tools? Do you have anything illegal on you? Nothing in your pockets there? I might just see your waistbands, make sure you don't have any. Okay, you're good. I'm gonna have you step up there maybe 40 or 50 feet off. This is my canine partner, too. Good boy. Good boy, good boy. Here, here, here. Good boy, good boy. Good boy. Here. On his own, he goes into the vehicle. That's his alert to narcotic odor. So we're gonna go ahead and search it. There's a bag of meth right there. Let's go ahead and, I'm sure there's more, but let's go ahead and just, you cuff her up, I'll cuff him up. Is that your cigarette butt? Pick it up. Put it in your pocket, alright? Yeah. Okay, face away from me. Spread your legs.
Put your hands back behind your back for me. Alright, just don't move, okay?
Okay. So the reason you're in cuffs is just because the meth that was in the door?
It's not. It's salt.
It's salt or something? Okay. Well, we'll test it, okay? But right now, we're checking that.
Under the passenger seat, get on the back.
So that's where the dog was going, right down there. Probably about a half.
So as you can see, this is definitely a problem that persists in Utah. Some of the drug names that are commonly known for methamphetamines is meth. Of course, meth is chemically similar to an amphetamine. It's got the exception of that it affects the central nervous system and that it has more potent and long-lasting. It could also be known as the dexofedrine. Some of the street names would be Ice, Speed, Tweak, Crystal, Uppers, Crank, Glass, Crack, or Go Fast. And it was also known as Pervitin for a short time back in World War II when it was given as a drug to German and Japanese soldiers. It's meant to decrease depression and make them go and not have to sleep. And interestingly enough, Adolf Hitler also received daily injections of amphetamines for depression and fatigue from a doctor. Amphetamines are not commonly prescribed today, but there are a few uses for them. They could be prescribed for attention deficit hyperactivity disorder and some forms of narcolepsy. Some of these prescriptions might be called Adderall or Vancey and Dextrine. These work with the central nervous system. They increase dopamine and norepinephrine in the brain, which can lead to improved focus and concentration and impulse controls in individuals with ADHD. And at one point back in the day, it was introduced as Benzedrine, which is an inhaler for head colds and nasal congestion. And then Benzedrine salts were for treating narcolepsy, depression, and given for weight loss. Some of the current regulations that we have, methamphetamine is a Schedule II stimulant under the Controlled Substance Act. It has a high potential for abuse, but it's also approved for medical use. It's only available with a prescription. There are no refills given with this prescription. The patient must go back to the doctor to get another refill. And there are some limited treatments for obesity and ADHD, as I mentioned. And this would be in that Desonix, given in 5, 10, and 15 milligram doses. It was first synthesized by a Romanian doctoral student named Lazar Edelnu in 1887. And it was pretty much forgotten until about 1929 when chemist Gordon Alls, looking for a cure for asthma, used it. He used it on himself, and he said it gave him a feeling of well-being. But when it was given to patients, it increased their heart rate and left patients sleepless and nauseous and headachy. But they did turn it into that inhaler that I mentioned, and it was used as a decongestant for a while. And then again, it was used as Pervitin. It was created as a stimulant to help soldiers feel less fatigued. Some of the current uses, as I mentioned, the only amphetamine that's given today under prescription is for ADHD and a little bit for narcolepsy. That's that disoin that I mentioned earlier. But people can misuse it by taking this prescription from others and taking it themselves. And for somebody without ADHD, it can give them feelings of euphoria, increased energy, but this misuse can definitely lead to tolerance, dependence, and eventually addiction. And then a lot of people, when they start taking this, it does make them feel good, so they want to take more. They want higher doses. They'll take it more frequently, or they might change their method of how they take it so that it gets stronger, more intense, rushes and highs. Some of the risks of the amphetamines, they have a very high risk of abuse that can lead to severe physical and psychological dependence. If you are to get a dose of meth that is laced with fentanyl, which is unfortunately more and more common, it'll make the risk even higher, including death. And although it is chemically similar to amphetamines, it's definitely more potent. There are several added ingredients. And then the way that it's administered when it's in meth form it can cause some severe health problems. But again, the benefit is that for patients with ADHD, it can be very beneficial for them. Um, Here you can see some of the effects of the drug. There's some cardiovascular issues, some respiratory problems. It can cause severe dental decay. Skin sores is also very common. Some cognitive impairments and paranoia and anxiety and psychosis. And some of these pictures kind of demonstrate what meth users, how they started and how they ended up looking after just a short time on meth. Meth is very addictive. As I mentioned, it messes with your central nervous system and it gives as a stimulant. And then when it's orally or snorted, then it produces a long-lasting, very high, instead of just that initial rush, which reportedly can continue for as long as a day or more. This can also lead to what's called tweaking, which is where the user is on a continued high because they continue to use and they continue to use higher and higher dosages, which can lead them to 3 to 15 days with no sleeping and no food, and is very dangerous. Both of these, the rush and the high, are believed to result from very high levels of dopamine in the areas of the brain that regulate pleasure. Long-term effects can result in many damaging effects, including, of course, addiction. Meth has a lot of impacts, not only on the one abusing it, like the physical impacts that I showed you a few minutes ago, but they're also associated with criminal activity. There's also increased violence and property damage associated with this. And it also has a very high environmental impact. It's very bad for the environment. All of the toxic chemicals that they use can leak into the water system or the groundwater, and it's really bad. There is an effort to disrupt the distribution and production of methamphetamines. And then, of course, there's also education and support for those that are struggling with addiction. Here's just a little video about what it's like inside of a meth lab.
Oh my god. This is it. Wow. Much bigger than I thought it was going to be. After a long hike, we arrive at a massive meth production site, what the Sinaloa cartel calls a super lab. Impresionante, ¿eh? Es grande. Hola. ¿Aquí qué es?
Dice puede comer el plomo.
Lead. Pero plomo es muy peligroso, ¿no? Para la salud también.
Sí, por dos.
Plomo, sí.
Las galletas.
Galleta, which is what they call cookie, is a mix of other chemicals.
Cianuro, sosa,
Cyanide, lime, alcohol, and then they put the fire on, it starts heating. The smell is so strong, it's so el olor. Make no mistake about it, the booming popularity of meth in the U.S. goes hand in hand with boom in production. Labs like this are cooking meth on an industrial scale. A generation ago, American-made meth was only about 60% pure. The cartels have increased the purity to above 90%. Just showing you the accuracy, this is for the level that they want, and it's spot on. And yet, cooking the drug is still as crude and dangerous as ever. So you can see just how rudimentary this all is. The fire coming underneath here, there's a really strong smell of gas. There's a thing going round and round, this is all made by hand, and you just have the feeling that this can go wrong really fast.
So as you can see, this is a huge environmental impact. It's very messy and it's very dangerous. And this is just an example of what meth labs can look like. So it does continue to be a problem here in Utah, and it is highly addictive, and it does lead to criminal behavior and environmental impacts. In 2005, the DEA enacted the Combat Methamphetamine Epidemic Act, and this has helped because it reduces the amount of ephedrine, pseudoephedrine, and phenylpropanolamine, which is one of the main ingredients in meth, and it has reduced that amount because there's only certain regulated sellers that are allowed to sell this, and anyone who wants to buy it, any one individual, they can only buy a certain amount, and they also have to present a photo ID, and they have to sign into a logbook, so that really has helped to reduce the problem. Also trying to stop the production, stop that distribution. That's really one big thing that the law enforcement is trying to enforce. So with continued enforcement and strict adherence to these guidelines, I think we can help stop this production and stop the meth epidemic. Thank you.